First, I'd like to dedicate a huge thank you to all my wonderful members, as this video would not have been possible without their support. Though, do be warned that it will feature mentions of sexual violence, sexual torture, genital disfigurement, dismemberment, and scat. If you're sensitive to any of the topics mentioned, please do not watch this video, and, to everyone else, I'd still advise you to proceed with caution nonetheless. Now, without further ado, let's finally tackle today's main subject, Tori Marisa Niki Otsukero, also known as Marisa's Trio. Take care of yourself in English. Our story ends with Marisa jolting awake, looking somewhat disappointed. She then gets ready for the day and looks out the window to see Rinosuke and Koichi helping a seemingly traumatized Satori walk. As she's looking at them, however, Koichi looks back directly into Marisa's eyes, apparently using some sort of ability. In an instant, Marisa finds herself naked, limbless, and suspended by her hair above some sort of strange, fleshy organism covering the floor. After a minute of confusion, Koichi appears, revealing that she trapped Marisa in her dream in order to punish the witch for what she did to Satori. Marisa pleads desperately for mercy, but her cries are utterly ignored as spiky, phallic tentacles penetrate her most private places, tearing and remodeling her body into a hideous abomination, whose only purpose is to trap her mind and continuously inflict it with as much sheer, unbearable agony as physically possible. Even worse, Koichi then reveals that she intends to keep Marisa like that for the rest of eternity, as she believes this to be the only appropriate punishment for what she put Satori through. Now, if you're at all familiar with hentai doujins, you know that this kind of story, as ridiculously horrific as it may be, is pretty much a dime a dozen in the genre. So why do I believe this one specifically to be deserving of a video? Well, mostly due to its surprisingly positive reception by readers. Hence, even on hentai, the doujin's comment section mostly seems to be rejoicing in absolute glee at Marisa's fate. This is extremely surprising, especially for that particular website, as it's very well known for its annoying user base, which constantly bitches about works containing tags they dislike instead of simply avoiding them. Something they could easily do, as a detailed list of said tags is present right at the start of the page, before even the doujin itself, if they weren't so deathly afraid of the very idea of reading. But why, you might wonder, why are such normally oversensitive people suddenly so enthusiastically cheering for the horrific torture of as nice and beloved a character as Marisa? To answer this question, we need to go back to the very first doujin in this almost decade-long series in order to understand what Marisa, or more accurately, this Marisa, did to warrant such a terrible punishment, both in Koichi's and in the audience's eyes. Our story starts with Marisa demanding Rinosuke's attention, a demand which he politely rejects by claiming that he is busy. This is soon revealed to be a lie, however, as when Satori enters the shop, Rinosuke's story changes on the fly, with him now claiming to have nothing to do at the moment. Reading the room, Marisa quickly excuses herself out the shop, though clearly full of resentment, anger, and envy of Rinosuke's clearly mutual affection for Satori, interpreting it as Satori seducing him for her own nefarious purposes as a way to cope with the clear rejection. As retaliation, Marisa drugs Satori with a sleeping mushroom when she is going back home, all with an absolutely deranged expression of delight in her face, a clear and dreadful omen of the absolute horrors we'll shortly be witness to. From there, the rest of the story devolves into mere torture porn, as Marisa uses more and more horrific methods to get Satori to forget Rinosuke for good. Something she stubbornly refuses to do, both due to her romantic affection as well as due to her gratitude to him for being the first friend she ever made outside of the Earth Spirit Hall, and, consequently, the person that convinced her to finally stop isolating herself there and touch grass more often. In this first chapter of the story, Marisa deflowers Satori with the sharp end of a broom. In the second, She utilizes sharp, surgical tools to completely destroy both her orifices, and in the third, she administers Satori with shock therapy while... Am I fucking reading this correctly? I literally put this in the script and I still can't believe like this actually happened. Anyway, she... while literally forcing her to eat shit. Yeah, as alluded to in the beginning, the series heavily features scat as one of its main fetishes. And, fair warning, its usage in the story only gets worse from here on. After that, Marisa locks Satori in a box with a tentacle monster for a couple of days, claiming that it will not only continuously assault her, but also assimilate her body. We're made aware of the exact nightmarish meaning of her words right at the beginning of the next chapter, where it's revealed that the tentacles completely consumed Satori's limbs, leaving her as a quadruple amputee. Still unsatisfied, Marisa then removes the tool she used to clog Satori's vagina and, look, you get the point, okay? Marisa puts Satori through what can only be accurately described as a living hell, to say the least. At this point, not only are her body and dignity completely obliterated, but so is even her seemingly undying love for Rinosuke, as, after that, Satori finally relents, not only agreeing to forget Rinosuke, but also desperately begging for nothing more than for Marisa to simply kill her at last, also that her suffering will finally be over. To her somehow even further horror, though, Marisa reveals that Rinosuke long ceased being the driving force for her actions, with her now simply desiring to see just how much more she can possibly destroy poor Satori's body, mind, and spirit. This all culminates with Marisa integrating Satori's body as part of Gensokyo's sewage system, condemning her to serve as one of its pipes for the rest of her life. After enduring this for half a year, however, Satori suddenly wakes up in her bed, with not only her clothes on, but also healthy and with all her limbs still intact. As it's revealed that, instead of torturing her in the real world, Marisa used a spell to trap Satori in her dream world, in order to not only hurt her in much more extreme ways than she normally be able to, but also in a place where she could be sure that none of Satori's friends and loved ones could come to her rescue. Thankfully, due to Koishi's power over the unconscious plane, and consequently the dream world, she was able to observe what Marisa was doing and, eventually, free her sister from the spell, as well as identify who exactly cast it in order to deliver righteous punishment to the perpetrator afterwards, leading to the events described at the start of the video. Keep in mind that, in reality, the events I just summarized occurred over the span of 8 Doujin chapters, which, in turn, collectively took almost a decade to complete. Which, in my opinion, more than justifies its readers' not only unusually positive, but also extremely positive reaction to its conclusion, as simply reading this series from start to finish for this video already made the ending incredibly cathartic, so I can't even imagine just how much more satisfying it must have felt to the people who had to wait for literal years for it. Though, what about you? What did you think of this doujin? Do you agree with the community's reaction to its ending, and if you don't, why? As always, I really love if you could share your thoughts on it with me in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, even if mostly out of a morbid curiosity, then I'd also be really thankful if you could do all the normal YouTube stuff, such as liking, commenting, and subscribing, as all that helps me out way more than you think. With that out of the way, however, I believe it's about time to, as always, bid you guys farewell. Obscure Anime out!